Ambeo Max is the largest of the 3 soundbars on offer from Sennheiser. Below it sits the Plus, which I reviewed earlier, and of course the Mini. The Max retails for $24.99 US. Now the Ambeo Max doesn't look anything like the other soundbars in the Ambeo range, which I find a little bit curious because I really like the way the Ambeo Plus looked. And I inquired as to why this is, and they got back to me saying, well, the Ambeo Max was the first soundbar to be produced, and so they just threw everything at this to make this the most epic soundbar possible. And then, since the other ones were produced later on, I think they refined the aesthetics to be more, home-friendly. And so that's why they don't match up. And then also, the Plus has some of the extra functionality within the app that the Max doesn't have. And I can only imagine that at some point, the Max will get updated, become maybe more living room friendly, and also have a bit of that added functionality in the app available. One of the key ones was when I clicked onto, when I hooked up the soundbar in general, and the optimization of it, like the visualizer on the app is not there. It's just kind of, you're just waiting. And I actually ended up restarting it a couple times because I was waiting for that visualization to happen and it didn't. So it's those small sort of things. And there's some maybe extra sound functionality as well that isn't quite available, which I'll get to in a second. The top of the bar features some controls. There's source, Bluetooth, volume, multi, mic mute, and crucially, no indicator lights, which is great for me because I didn't reference them at all on the Plus when I was adjusting things. The remote is the same. It's metal, it's chunky, it feels nice in your hand, and it's a nice plus because once you get everything dialed in with the app, you can just turn everything on with the remote and you're done. And honestly, like when it came down to my day-to-day usage, or if I was just too tired and I didn't feel like reviewing something at the end of the day, I would just use my Apple TV remote and I could control the soundbar almost completely, just volume, because all my settings were dialed in, which at the end of the day, having a great product that you don't have to really think about is kind of amazing. This is a full-featured and immersive 7.1.4 soundbar. This is achieved with 13 Class D amplifiers and therefore 13 drivers, 6 4-inch cellulose sandwich cones, 5 1-inch aluminum tweeters, 2 3.5-inch top-firing drivers, 500 watts RMS. Frequency response is 30 Hz to 20 Hz. Audio processing is all of this stuff. It's got HDMI eARC 2.1, HDMI up to 4K 60 Hz, and you get all the other stuff like Bluetooth, Apple AirPlay, Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect, Dolby Atmos, and Google Chromecast built in. The inputs are basically everything you need. You get 1 HDMI eARC, 2 HDMI, 1 optical, 1 RCA, and 1 USB. Ethernet for hardwiring the bar, 1 microphone input for room calibration with the included mic. It also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5.0. Included are the power cord, high-speed HDMI cable, mic, remote control, and a battery. When I first got this product delivered, the box was friggin' huge, and so my first thought was like, there's no way that I'm going to set this up in my bedroom at all. The only place for it was atop my media unit in my living room, and so that's exactly where I put it. And getting it set up was just like the Plus. It was really, really easy. I put it into place, connected the HDMI ARC, the HDMI from the Apple TV, and I was done. And then all I needed to do was fire up the thing, get my Bluetooth connected to the soundbar, and then plug in the mic, and then it immediately just triggers the Ambeo virtualization setup, and I was just good to go. I just set up, got out of the way, it calibrated my room, and I was pretty much done. And then if I chose to, I could go in and I could mess around with some settings. Now, I screenshotted some of my settings when I did the Plus review in hopes that I would get the Max in. I could maybe compare them. And what I did after I got it all set up is I just watched a few things just to kind of get my ears used to how the Max sounded. And one thing that I noticed almost immediately is that the high frequencies on this Max were much more noticeable. Like it was almost like they were like sharper and a bit glassy up top, just how it was like playing in my room. And so what I did is I just turned down the treble and I just re-EQ'd it just to like compensate for that edginess. And I'm not sure if it's like because the driver configuration is different or it's just the added amplification in the soundbar that is contributing to this, but I noticed it, so I just turned those things down, and then it just made for a much more enjoyable listen to my ears. And then also, crucially, is I have the B&W 610 sub connected to the soundbar because they didn't send the Ambeo sub along for this version. And I like my 610 better than the Ambeo sub. It just has a bit more impact. It sounds better with music, and it just like it's tighter overall. Now, the better of the two subs that I have in-house is the QB12 subwoofer from Q Acoustics, but you know, it's really big and it's white and it doesn't aesthetically match, so I was willing to sacrifice a little bit of bass output, believe it or not, just to have it aesthetically match up better. Now, with the Ambeo virtualization, you have the choice to turn it off, which, why? And then you could also choose light, regular, or boost. And again, like, why would you use anything else but boost? Like, it's like maximum immersiveness all the time is kind of what this soundbar does. So I just leave it in boost all the time. I was taken aback with the Ambeo Plus with how much customizability was within that app itself. Now, the Max being older, it doesn't have the same level of robustness. It's not as customizable. But there's a decent amount of presets within it, especially just within the movie mode, that I didn't mind not tweaking to my heart's content. Again, I imagine that in future iterations, you will get more functionality within it, but, you know, them's the breaks. So here I am watching Top Gun again for the 50th time, and I'm reminded of when I did the Ambeo Plus review that, like, I felt like all that sound field was missing was the inclusion of rear speakers, like these guys that aren't hooked up to anything right now, and I'm just too lazy to move. But now I realize that all I really needed to do was just plug in the Ambeo Max in place of the Plus, and lo and behold, it feels like I have rear speakers in play. The sound is so much bigger, so much more immersive, so much more powerful that, like, if it's in your budget and you have the space for it or a media unit that can accommodate a larger soundbar, go and get the Max. It is seriously impressive. There's a scene in Top Gun that I really like testing out gear with, and it's where Maverick steals the $1 million fighter jet and then finishes the course that the other trained fighter pilots that are 20 years younger than him can't do. And like, it goes from like boring fighter pilots in a boardroom being told that they're probably going to die in their next mission to like Maverick flying in, and then the whole thing sort of builds up with like fighter jet noise and music, and like, ta-da, he finishes it, and then it cuts to just like people talking again. So you get to hear like full immersion and then people talking. And like, you get to hear like the narrow focus of like basically a phantom center channel or the soundbar in front of you. But then you also get to hear everything else around you, including what I can only assume is some technical, magical wizardry where it actually sounds like I have heights, I have my surrounds, I have my aforementioned rears, and it's a great listen. And it's like a really great sort of like scene to pull where, you know, like, can I go from like full on immersion to like nothing? It's like, it's one of those. I like it. I also rewatched a couple episodes of Shogun, because the show rules, but also I was taken aback with how immersive that felt as well. Like the Foley that they introduced to replicate Japan versus being shot in Canada. Like, I wanted to hear how it felt. And again, it felt like I had full surround, including rears too. And I felt like the dialogue just felt a bit deeper and grittier, and there was more texture to it, and really, really liked it. So this Max is just winning all the way around. I love it so much. Music sounds quite a bit better than I remember with the Plus, though I didn't spend too much time listening to music on that one. I think it's the inclusion of the extra drivers and extra power on this soundbar that makes it sound better with music. But I was more concerned with like switching between like the Ambeo virtualization, having it off for music, and honestly, this is totally counter to any audiophile people, but like I liked having the Ambeo virtualization on versus having it off for music. I think it's because like I'm used to like a good 2-channel setup, like amp and 2 speakers, and I generally consume my music that way. But then when it's the Ambeo is sort of off, like it just kind of sounds like you know where the music's coming from. It's coming right in front of you, and it doesn't have the same sort of spaciousness, I feel. So when I turn it on and it does whatever trickery it does, and it just expands the soundstage of everything, I like being immersed in the sound better than not. And for almost everything, it sounds pretty good. Like, again, like I mentioned in the Plus, like if this is the only product that you have and you listen to music through it, you'll enjoy yourself and your ears will quickly adjust to it. It should be more than you need, unless you're an audiophile sicko like the rest of us and you just need dedicated everything. My daughter loves her some Taylor Swift, and therefore I find myself listening to Taylor Swift more than I would like, though I'll admit to liking that Fortnite track. It reminds me sort of like the autonomic era of like D Bridges and the Exit Records labels. Like it has that similar 80s sort of, I don't know how to describe it, bass line, but I can deal with that song. And what I wanted to really hear was like my daughter's reaction, she's 8, to like, how do you like the music? Do you like it with just Ambeo off, or do you like it with it on? Do you like it with boost? Like, what is your feeling? And so when she listened, she told me that she just preferred having Ambeo on because it felt like she was at a concert. And since she doesn't get to go to the Taylor Swift concert, that like, this is the next best thing. I thought it was really sweet. And like an 8-year-old who's never been to a concert, her ears are way better than any washed old guys. So like, you can take her word for it over mine, for sure. Playing something a little more close to home, Hot Stuff from Ronnie Size off that classic Represent album. That track is mostly bassline for the first 2 minutes with some minor ambience on top. And when the drums do kick in, they are seemingly bereft of any low end. So when it all comes together, the whole track is glorious. It sounds wonderful via the Max with the inclusion of the B&W 610 sub to kind of fill in that low end. I think it sounds amazing. Though when I turned off the B&W, there was enough bass present in the Max to sort of compensate. And if you only had the Max, I think you'd be fine listening to some electronic music. Oh. Remember how I said I didn't know if I could fit the soundbar into my bedroom? Well, it's over there behind me. And the main issue was getting the TV to just clear the overall height of the soundbar. I don't have it mounted, the TV, on my wall because I'm renting this place. And seeing how many holes I put in walls when I hang up pictures, that like hanging a TV into potentially a concrete wall is a little bit above my pay grade. And I really don't want to make the people that own this place sad when they take the place back and there's holes everywhere. So my solution is these little rubber, I'm not sure what they are. Like they're the rubber feet that you could put like desk legs into, but I turn them over upside down and I put the TV legs on top of those things, and that gets it just to creep over the height of the soundbar so it works in my room. It's not the most elegant solution, but it works, and now I have surround sound in my bedroom. All right, I can't sit on my bed any longer and just like crane my neck to look at a camera, so I'm going to do it here. But my new favorite show is Dark Matter, and once a week I watch that show before I hit the sack because it comes out, I think it's like every Wednesday here in Canada. But like, it's a wonderful show, and at night is a good time to engage in night mode. And what night mode does is just kind of dumps all the low frequency effects and all that grunt and bass and everything that makes a show sound great. Like, night mode works, you still get some of that ambeo surround sound effects, but like, if you really want to enjoy a show, just don't use night mode. Though, if you do have a small place and you have kids and you don't want to wake them up, like, yeah, night mode all day, like, I get it. So, yeah, night mode works. It's good. The Ambeo Max ticks all of the boxes and is the perfect soundbar if you want maximum surround sound for your money and you have adequate space for it. Pair it with your sub of choice and you're golden. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Cheers.